are these exam grades really for? Is it for our children, or is it more for like parents? Is it for society? You know?
Hi, my name's Yudhishthra, and this is my wife, Pia. We're a husband and wife podcast.
Why do exams carry the weight of an entire life?
What if exams matter, but not in the way we think it is?
So we talk about exams. Wow, this is a big one. I
Exciting.
remember when we were dating. I hope your dad is watching this, because I remember I tell this story to everyone about how the first time that I met your dad actually asked me out of the blue, what were your SPM results?
Oh,
Yeah, but at that time, I am not going to lie, I was very confident to answer because, well, I was a straight A student, but I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. That was the reason we wanted to have, I think because we were reminiscing that the thing was when we decided that, hey, let's talk a little bit about SPM results. Because like you mentioned earlier, what if they matter, but not in the way that we think it does, right? Yeah, so I mean, coming back to the question, to the part about Yudhishthra's father, so he did ask me what were my SPM results. I paused for a bit because you never expect like your future in-law at that time to be asking you that question. But I think in Malaysia, exams, or maybe just the Asian culture in general, I think exams symbolize a lot of things. You know, sometimes I feel it's like, of course, the basic things like success and all of that. But I think sometimes there's also a lot of like, it also symbolizes fear, comparison, and things like that. What are your thoughts?
I think for me, from an academically standpoint, from my school days, I struggled. And it didn't help that you have, these exam gradings, like general exams where, I think UPSR or PMR or SPM, one of these, So, when you sit for these exams, right, what happens is that everyone will, start calling and say, hey, what did you do? How did you do?
Oh my God, yeah.
And so I actually struggled. I mean, I think I got only 1A in each of these exams, So I think I felt like I'm kind of doomed, if that's the word I would
Wow,
use.
it's a heavy word. Yeah. Okay, wow. So in other words, like, did you feel like, because as you mentioned earlier, you had like, was it 1A in each? Did you feel like automatically it signaled to you that, oh my God, what am I going to do with my life in the future, is it?
100%. I, felt that, okay, look, because I've only got an 1A, that's it. I can't go to college, I can't go to uni. And, I remember even when I was, I think after my PMR, and I was trying to move schools, and, I was rejected because of my results. So I think at that moment, I looked at it, realized that, my God, what am I going to do? Yeah.
Oh, wow. Like, you're absolutely right, actually. Like, we put so much of pressure on these exams. I mean, like, of my point of view of it is maybe a little bit different. I think it's because, like, for me, I mean, I grew up in a small town. So I grew up in Cameron Highlands. So you can imagine that, like, everybody will know your results. Everybody will know what stream you're going into. They'll know to the extent how many A pluses you had or whatever as well. But I would say that the good part, but why I personally think that exams are good and why it's important, is for me personally, it really taught me discipline at a very young age. So, of course, there's other parts to it as well. I'm not discounting the fact that there was a lot of comparison, there was a lot of competition and all of that. Sometimes healthy competition, but sometimes not very healthy, because sometimes it also involves, like, those dinner table conversations where at one age, just recently, I think we went out with a couple of people who had kids in doing SPM or something. And I was just laughing to myself because the conversation that they were having was like, okay, he just came back from Bahasa tuition, then tomorrow he's going for maths tuition and then English tuition. And then I remember like, oh my God, that used to be like my life as well.
Yeah.
But now if I ask myself, like, did those things, how much has it affected my life right now? The subject in itself, maybe I forgot a lot of things, but I feel like it was a very good foundation. But coming back to the dinner table conversation part, sometimes I wonder, even at that time, in school, and I hope that we don't do this when we have kids, is who are these exam grades really for? Is it for our children or is it more for like parents? Is it for society? Like sometimes you wonder, like actually these extra classes or this academic like pushing another level. Okay, this person has enrolled in this tuition, so I must send my child here as well. I always wonder like who is it actually for? Because sometimes maybe the kids don't even have a choice.
Yeah. I would think it's a very controversial thing. I think it's actually for society. I think that is how I would look at it, But the question I would which what I'm kind of understanding now and uncovering is, the question at that time was saying, hey, with exams at that juncture and maybe not doing well in that, does that straight away signifies that you're doomed? But I think years later, I realized that sometimes when you're in school and everything, right? Sometimes let's just put it this way. Exams, if I would put it this way, is a means to understand how well do you know a topic or how well do you know a subject. And that's about it, I would guess. But where I look back to realize was actually from your school days, even though if you didn't do well and everything, there's always times in your life where you'll have some form of turning point, or you would kind of like find something that you like, which naturally you will then excel in.
Yeah, because like we were talking about this the other day, and you told me yes, you had, like you mentioned earlier, maybe not the best results when you were in school, but when you went to like uni, or was it college?
College and
uni, I noticed that you told me that you really enjoyed your studies and everything, and I think it's earlier what you mentioned actually. It's like you started loving the subjects, you started understanding the subjects, and correct me if I'm wrong, it was a lot more like practical stuff.
It was. So what made it very interesting in the college and university was it was actually a combination. So you have exams, but that doesn't make up 100%. So maybe, for example, it's 50%. The other 50% will be broken down into things like, you do project work together, you do presentations. So what I loved about this was it actually tested you in all angles. Why? From a project perspective, it taught you to see, can you work with people? Are you able to work with people? From a presentation perspective, are you able to present? Are you able to communicate what you have learned? You want to share it with your class. Are you able to do that? So that was one part of it. The part on the exam part of it was that it taught you an element of testing the subject that you learned in that semester. Do you actually understand it well enough? And when you piece this whole thing together, it actually looks very collectively, I feel, a good way of assessing a person, How did you feel? You see, because, we were talking about exams and things like that, right? I guess in your career and what you did as you were studying and everything, was it a fully exam-based?
Oh, right. So, I mean, to answer the question whether it was fully exam based, right up to like during your degree or university studies, it's mainly a lot of it is theory, like knowledge based. But when you do the bar, so as a lawyer, you can choose to do CLP or the bar. Like with the bar, there's a lot of like theoretical practice as well. So we really learn advocacy, we learn like conferencing, how to speak to clients, and all of that. So there's of course more exposure there, right? But just going back on track on the topic of exams. So for me, because I grew up from a small town, emphasis was placed so much on like education and getting straight A's. Well, yes, I got the straight A's and I was very happy and everything. But I also had to learn a very, very hard lesson after that, which was when I realized exams is probably not everything. And it's because I got the straight A's, I was very studious in school, like I prioritized education, I was very competitive, I was all of that lah.
Yeah.
But then when I went into like uni and stuff, I realized that I did some subjects that I really didn't like.
Okay.
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 And I actually did very badly. And I didn't know how to cope with failure.
Wow.
So I feel like there's
Okay.
the other side of the coin. Like sometimes people think and say like, oh wow, you know, you excel, you're so good, you're so well. Like throughout my entire schooling years, since I was probably in kindergarten, I was just like, oh my God, I can do this, I'm doing so great, I'm doing so well. And then you get a rude shock and you realize that you're not going to be good at everything. I really needed to learn failure. And it was a very hard lesson. You know, so I think that's when I realized like, well, the books taught me so many things, but it didn't teach me such an important skill, which is how to learn and basically how to embrace failure. You know, I took it really hard. So that was an eye opener for me. And I remember asking myself also, oh my God, like the number of A's or whatever cannot compensate for this feeling that I'm having right now. So I had to learn that. So that's when I kind of like, whenever I speak to like a lot of like interns who come and like chamber in the firm and all of that, I always tell them it's very important. Like I think SPM is a very good, whenever they bring in the SPM slip, I always want to look at it as well sometimes. And the reason is because I think it can, one look at it, sometimes you can tell, okay, it gives you a brief indication as to maybe about the person, but it is not. You cannot just dismiss a person because they didn't get straight A's. Maybe you can have a look at it. It can help you, maybe it can work in their benefit, but to just look at it and to say that, oh, you're going to be an amazing lawyer or whatever, I think is maybe not the right approach. You know, it's a good indication, but not final lah. Yeah.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from, you know. I think sometimes it also can be quite challenging. I remember, you know, in my schooling days example, so you have exams and then you have streaming of classes.
Oh, okay.
So you got the top classes, then you've got the middle, and then you've got the bottom classes. And I remember, I think it was when I was in, I think secondary two or secondary two it was or something, you know, where I ended up in the bottom class. And I just remembered that, you know, that feeling of like, oh, you know, how, you know, that, you know, I ended up in the bottom class. I didn't do well in the exams. But honestly, at that juncture of time, I realized and learned that it doesn't matter even you're in the bottom class. You know, it really, really doesn't matter. I've got now some of my really, really good friends who I remember he turned around and told me he met this guy, and this guy asked him, oh, what are you doing? And he said, you know, he told him the class, and the guy said, oh, what are you doing in this class? You know, I'm in the smart class.
Oh,
And
wow.
he held it and remembered it until today. I see him very proud that he's done very well for himself, and he lives in Australia, and he works for a very, very good company there. So what I learned and realized is that actually everyone has something that they're just so damn good at, and that they will shine. But it's
Yeah.
just whether and how you identify it and do it. That is how I look at it.
Yeah, so like with exams, I guess, well, all and good. If somebody excelled all through their life,
Yeah.
then I guess maybe, you know, they kind of know what path they are in and
Yes.
the career. But you also have stories about people who do very well in school, but then eventually later on, you know, when it comes to their career and stuff, that maybe they are struggling or they're having
Yeah.
a hard time, you know. So to completely tell a person, like I've heard these conversations of parents having with children where they tell their kids that, okay, if you don't get your straight A's, that's it, you are completely gone for life.
Yeah.
I think that is a very dangerous and a very scary thought to put in a child, because did that affect your sense of worth when you were younger?
I think for me, it definitely did. It did affect my sense of worth, because generally, without realizing, you start comparing, yourself to the people around you, and then you're like, hey, oh wow, these people have got this number of, they did super well, and then, yeah, so it definitely did affect my sense of worth. But now, years after that, passing through all of that, I look back and I said, no, like, it actually didn't. It shouldn't have, as I go back, because everyone has their part, and they shape their own path in how they want to do it. And, in your case of this, right, when you talked about, excelling and doing, with grades, getting, doing well and everything, when you encountered that setback and failure, how did you actually overcome it?
Oh, wow. I'm not going to lie to you. I still carry that with me till today. So meaning that I take failure very, very personally. I'm way better than how I was before. But I did a lot of reflection on this because I used to get really thrown off and I couldn't accept it. Like, for example, if like I aimed for a specific grade and I didn't get it in uni, or during the bar, the exams were really hard. Maybe like I wanted to get like a high distinction or something, and maybe I got a distinction. Like those things really, really got to me. But that's when I did a lot of internal reflection, and I realized that it's got nothing to do with the exams so much as it had a lot more to do with how I viewed myself. For the longest time, because of the grades I had in school, because of the environment that I came from, I attached my worth to my academics, So
Okay.
it meant like as long as I had great grades and everything, anything else can go horribly wrong in my life, and this would be fine. Until you come to the real world, and then you realize that there are other important skills that I needed to learn as
Yeah.
well that you don't usually learn in school. Like, for example, like basic things about like financial literacy.
Yeah.
Or like now that we're running a business, I realize that, oh my God, like maybe, yeah, theoretically I can remember a few things in school, but whether we applied it, the answer is no. So you really had to learn it the hard way. So I feel like I'm still trying to deal with it, but I think a lot of what helped me a lot was going to therapy. I had to first understand why I was like that. Why did I take failure and stuff so personally? And that was when I connected the dots and realized that it stemmed from childhood, right? And second is also, I think I needed to find my worth outside of my academics.
Okay.
So find who is Pia outside of her straight A's, or who is Pia outside of her career as a lawyer. So that's when I discovered that, hey, wait a minute, I like other things too. I have other interests too, And then I started detaching myself. Like, it's an important part of me. Like, they have this, is it the Venn diagram?
Okay.
Yeah, so for the
Yeah.
longest time, maybe I just saw myself as just one and everything was just me. But then now I kind of realized, like, it can be important to you, but maybe it doesn't define your worth.
Yeah.
So I started doing those things, and it has helped me a lot now. So like now I don't maybe not as bad lah. It's still a journey. I'll be lying if I tell you that it doesn't like get to me. Like, as you can see, I'm a very competitive person. So this morning I'm already putting on my Apple Watch because I wanted to get ahead of Yudish in terms of our steps. But then again, like you see, I'm just still reflecting that it all comes back down to probably the things that I learned as a child.
I look at it this way, that I realize, I think after coming out into the world of working, you realize that there's actually so many things that you have to learn out there. And I'm of the belief that learning literally never stops. We're so blessed today that we have everything at the tips of our fingers.
Yeah.
But it's as to how much do we want to use it.
Yeah.
But what is interesting in this whole thing is that, do you realize one thing? We are actually not, how do I put it in a nice way to say that? We're learning all of these new things, but there's no exams at the back of our minds. Hey, I need to test you to see, do you know this?
Yeah.
I need to test you
Yeah.
to see, do you know this?
Yeah.
No,
100%. But do you think that it'll be good though? Because like, don't you remember, like, we were also having a conversation about how, like, at the end of the day, it's accountability, right? Like, why I'm a big fan of exams. At the end of the day, I mean, I do notice how he has affected a lot of, the things you carry into your adulthood, but not minusing the fact that it really taught me like discipline. It taught me accountability, and it also in a way gave me like direction. Like, there's always like, okay, fine, you do UPSR first, it helps you then streamline, okay, when you go to PMR, how is it? And then when you're in PMR, you decide then whether you want science or arts. Of
Fair
course,
enough.
I'm not saying that like, oftentimes people have the stereotype, if you're in the science stream, you're smarter than, I don't know whether in KL you had
Yeah.
that. We had that, of course, in where I grew up as well. But then again, I realized that's not true. That part
Yeah.
of it, I look at it quite differently. But I just felt like it helped in terms of accountability. So much so that sometimes I feel like right now, because we don't have exams, sometimes you also ask yourself like, that accountability, I feel it lacks.
Okay.
Hence, in school, when you're still so young and everything, exams probably, in a way, keep you a little bit on track. It shouldn't be everything. It doesn't mean that if you fail at it means you'll be bad. But I guess if you do well, it's an assurance you give yourself that you are on the right track. I
Fair
look at
enough.
it that way.
Fair enough. So it'll be quite interesting to see if there's a way that a balance can be found between these two. You know, because I get where you're coming from. If you think of it, right, exams, as I mentioned, tests how much you know and everything. But at the same time, it's also an element of you are doing it in a time frame of, you know, because sometimes you could be learning something for many years, but you don't really know, are you actually learning the right thing? You know, so that could be an element. But I'm still of the opinion that I feel that, you know, exams shouldn't be the deciding factor. It's a combination of different elements,
Oh, that I agree.
you know, different elements, which will then play a big part in your life, in your journey, in your career, you know. But another thing that I always believe is that you literally never stop learning.
Yeah.
The day you actually say you know everything, I feel you're doomed, because
yeah.
you're never going to stop learning. There's just
Yeah.
so many things to learn out there, and it's fantastic and amazing.
Yeah.
And it's nice to put your hands and learn in things that you love,
Yeah.
that you're passionate about. You will be amazed what you decipher and discover.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, like, just touching on that point, it makes sense, right? Like, if somebody in school, you don't really have a choice.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're just maybe not interested in geography, maybe
Yeah.
you're just not interested in history, right? And then you do badly, and then it's taken to mean that, okay, you are a failure because you didn't do well in a subject that you don't like and you don't see yourself working in that field. Whereas, like, maybe if somebody was so into arts, they would excel in it, and then
Yeah.
and they grow up later on and they become like an artist. It's different. So I feel like to label based on the studies, because you mentioned earlier, there's just so much to learn, and one person may not know everything. So that was one belief that I also had to like unlearn about intelligence. So when people used to say that, hey, you know, she's a very intelligent person or he's a very intelligent person, 20 years ago, maybe I would think that this person knows everything. Intelligent means the person knows everything about everything. But then I've come to realize that intelligent basically means there's various forms of intelligence. And sometimes you can be really good at something and you can be really bad at something else.
And that is fine.
That is fine. And I would
Exactly.
still consider this person an intelligent person.
Absolutely.
You know, it really that was something that I had to unlearn about that, because I used to think as well, like, okay, if you want to be considered smart or intelligent, because in exams that's what you do. You do maths, you do English, you do everything, and you're supposed to get all A's, you're intelligent.
Yeah.
But in real life, even as a lawyer right now, you can't be good at family law, corporate law, land law.
Yeah.
You can't be, it's impossible. You know, you'll find your niche and you'll find something that you're an expert at and that you specialize in. You know, so yeah, is there any belief that you had to unlearn, you know, stemming from this?
There was just a part that I wanted to just touch on before I go on to this thing, which was in my mind. You were talking about, you know, if you're not good in a certain subject. I give you an example. For me, was that in school days, I actually loved history.
Oh,
Because it gave me a really good insights into Malaysia.
I think it's because you like politics. Do you think it's because of that?
Not, to be honest, not really because of politics,
okay.
but just generally, I learned so much
okay.
about Malaysia. And also another element I realized, which also plays a very key factor, I think, is also the person who's teaching and sharing. It makes a
yes.
very big difference. I remember in college and university, when we used to have like certain subjects, when the lecturer will actually use real life scenarios where you're able to learn, absorb, and apply. So I think that was one element I just wanted to touch on that I thought was very, very important. You know?
Oh, true.
Yeah.
100%, I agree. And
You
the
know?
other part about things that you had to unlearn.
Things that I had to unlearn, in what way do you mean?
So like when it came to like for me, when it came to like intelligence, I had to unlearn that intelligence doesn't mean that you need to know everything, you know. So
Okay. Well, I think for me, what I had to unlearn was,
I mean, just in general
yeah,
about
general.
exams, yeah.
I think when school is amazing, enjoy it. It's okay if you might not have found that thing while you're in school, and you're definitely going to find it as you progress through it. And I realized that be creative with your mind. Whatever you want to do, just do it. Example, if you remember in school days, we would always say, hey, you better be doctor, lawyer, accountant.
Oh,
That
yeah.
is the
Engineer.
That's the real trajectory of things. But I that is something that I've unlearned. I think I'm in the process of unlearning that. Removing that.
That there's other career options beyond that as well,
100%.
right? Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. I mean, just before we end our session, let's just do one quick lightning turns.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's
so
do
I think
it.
we answered one of it. Like I actually wanted to ask you what was one belief about intelligence that you had to unlearn. But
Okay.
let's just do one, which is basically what is one thing that exams taught you that wasn't academic?
Was it one thing that exams
Taught you that wasn't related to academics?
Discipline?
Okay.
Yeah. Discipline is what I would say.
Oh,
Why?
okay.
I mean, in a sense of discipline, because it teaches you that, okay, you have an exam, you got to do it within the time, you got to be able to, and it kind of like taught me a little bit of, the element of discipline. Yeah.
Okay. You mentioned one thing that exams taught you that wasn't academic was discipline.
Yeah.
I think for me, one belief that exams taught me that wasn't academic was, let me think. It actually taught me how afraid I am of the unknown. So like why I'm saying this is because exams, basically I was so afraid that I opened up an exam paper and I look at something and I realize I cannot answer it. I just realized, oh my goodness, I don't want to be in that position that I don't know something. So I used to be the kind of person that would like literally be so overly prepared.
Wow.
But why I'm
Okay.
saying that it taught me something that was not academic, it taught me something about myself, which was that I'm the kind of person that I just really need to know what's happening. Maybe now you're connecting the dots. No wonder my wife is just so inquisitive.
Yeah, no
But
wonder she's like,
I just have fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
So for me, what exams taught me, it taught me something about myself, which is that I'm the kind of person that I need to know like what's happening.
So
Yeah.
that figure of speech or what you say, you cross the bridge at that junction.
Oh my God, that's like
doesn't
the
work.
worst thing. Anybody tells me we'll cross the bridge when it comes is basically, I don't want to say anything more than that, but I really cannot, accept that.
Fair enough.
I'm just not able to.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think the first time I learned that was from exams.
Okay.
Yeah, I just needed to be very, very prepared. There's good and bad of that. It's for a whole different episode. What the perks of being over prepared, being a perfectionist and all that. But I guess exams taught me that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Looks like we have come to the end of our segment. I think it was such an awesome episode to talk about exams. And we would definitely love to hear your thoughts on this. And
Share with us. Are you a straight A student? Are you somebody who didn't excel very well maybe in school, but then you're thriving right now? I think at the end of the day there's no one size fits all. Everybody has got their own experience, and at the end of the day it's nice to know that there are other people who have walked the same path. And if you are in that journey, if you've just finished or waiting for your SPM results or waiting for just any examination results, I hope that this episode is something that you can resonate with. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments.
Absolutely. And please just don't forget to like and subscribe. So here's to the turning points that shaped us.